So, I made a video this morning on the Beyond Room 313 channel on Graham Hancock's new TV series on Netflix, Ancient Apocalypse. So you can go over there and check that and see what your thoughts on that are. It's a positive review, but I also talk about like why archaeologists are the way they are. Also, I want to talk about in this video about a phenomena that I wasn't sure if I was imagining it or not, but it's confirmed me today talking to a friend. I've noticed that dogs, if I'm because of where I work, there's a lot of outside tables where people do dining and stuff, and they often are out there because they have their dogs. And I've noticed that when I walk through that crowd now, the dogs are all over me. Now, dogs have always been attracted to me. Oh, well, all almost have. But I've never seen it like this. The dogs run over. Now, they're not unfriendly to anyone else, but they run over and they jump all over me, their tails wagging and everything else. I was talking to some friends today, and one of my friends was telling me that their a family member's dog, who they love the dog and take care of it. When they go over the house, the dog is all over them like never before, and they've been in situations where they were the only one that was needlecrafted, that were not transubstantiated in the crowd, and the dog would just casually walk around all the others, and as soon as they got a sniff of them, they were on top of them, wagging their tails and wanting to play. The dogs can detect who is needlecraft and who isn't. I'm convinced of that now, and it's just like the way it's almost like the uncadaver dog. It's like the dogs can smell the junk, the mother hydra's babies inside the transubstantiated. I'm convinced of it. Just like they can smell their owners who are buried 600 feet under the ground, just like they can smell cancers, just like they have the cadaver dogs who can smell death, like the ones that prove that Maddie McCann died in the apartment in Praia de Luz in Portugal. They have dogs. I believe that every kind of animal has its own version of faculty X. If you don't know what faculty X is, it's a sort of like a super consciousness that was theorized by Colin Wilson, who took the kind of superconscious ideas of Aldous Huxley and went a bit further. This sort of unknown quality, and I took the faculty X thing. I haven't written about it. I think this is just something in my own mind, and I'm just building my own model when I'm lying there early in the morning. By the way, this morning I wake up at 5 o'clock, bright and bushy-tailed, and right as rain, and I start doing housework. I'm sweeping and cleaning and all this kind of stuff. And I'm saying, oh, it's great to get up early. I'm as fresh as a daisy. And then an hour later, I literally collapse exhausted, and I sleep in late, and a real deep sleep. So my sleep cycles have been a bit mad lately. But anyway, so back to the topic at hand. So faculty X, when I'm building the model of the universe in my own mind, usually at like 7 o'clock in the morning when I've just woken up, for about half an hour or so, when I get these streams of consciousness, I think about faculty X, and I think about, well, how does it affect other animals? And I think the cats can see things that aren't there. The cats. Well, obviously the cats are two heads together going. Like they're looking at something that's not there. That's their faculty X. Faculty X would be like, in among fish, those shoals of fish in the sea that suddenly all turn like this at one time, or the starlings that were in their murmurations and they can suddenly all turn together. And the faculty X of dogs is their scent, their sense of smell. I think we humans, it's our eyes. We can actually detect a person's personality from looking into their eyes. But now is it they could smell the needlecraft inside people? I don't know, but it's also anyone I know who's been needlecraft. They're like, if they were running at 100 before, now they're like, their personalities are running at 19 or 20. They're not the same. They've lost that spark of life. They've lost. It's almost like there was enough in the needlecraft to bring them near a lobotomy, but not actually give them. I'm talking about the ones who are fully done now. near, well, not on the botany. I have something else that's very interesting, that maybe lots of the ones who were needle crafted in the early days, because of the lack of storage facilities for the transubstantiation, that by the time the thing was injected in them, it was inert, and it was useless, and so many of the ones who probably got the first single needle craft, and said, "Fuck it, I'm not getting any more." They probably actually got nothing. They're probably fine. Some of them would have got like potent batches. Maybe especially like the ones who got it later on, after the sort of like the supply chain aspects were like sorted out. But in the early days, the ones who were like getting to the first ones, I think a lot of them were not put in proper cold storage. That's why the government here in Ireland did a bizarre sacred tour of the tabernacles of the needlecraft. They actually paraded the fridges around the actual refrigeration units that the things are kept in. They parade them like they were holy tabernacles around the country on a sacred tour. Yeah, I'm not joking, it really happened. It's all part of the whole religiosity thing. But anyway, so some of the good news is those of you who got one at the start and then figured, I'm not doing it anymore, you probably got off. You're probably in the clear completely. Two, who knows? But it still looks good. The third one seems to be the one that's the deadly one. There's like it's like three times. The third one in is the one you don't come back from. But anyway, yeah, that's probably. I often wondered if the first two were the what you call it, the components, and the third one was a thing that actually assembled the assembling, the one, or the activator. Like those glues that they don't activate unless you shine a UV light on them, or spray a chemical on them. I think that's what happened with the needlecraft. The first two was putting the assembly units into them, and then the third one was the actual assembly. That's why so many of them were okay. There was like a standard rare side effects of the first two, which you'd expect in terms going by the numbers. But when the third one hit in, that's when all the mother baby hydras and everything showed up, and all the other stuff associated with. But the uh, the dogs seem to be able to detect that. If they're fully transubstantiated, the dogs can tell. The dogs are smelling you, through their own, through the dog's faculty X ability, which is its nose, and so there you go. Well, So if you've noticed that, leave a link below. Leave a message below. I've noticed that, and I think it's true. I think that the dogs know who's been transubstantiated, who's had the cup of tea. By the way, I want to thank Stefan from Sandy for Sweden for giving me a nice shout out as one of the Irish heroes, and Christian Morris as well. I put a list on my Substack page of his Irish assholes list, and then some new names added. But yeah, that was nice. But yeah, he calls it a cup of tea. I call it the needlecraft, or the transubstantiation, because it's the spiritual thing for these idiots at this point. But yeah, that seems to be a thing. Now, I don't know what like. I suspect that the doggies can smell the transubstantiation inside them, but I think it might be also that the owners are like, they're just not the vital spark that these people had that made them who they were. Also, there was a funeral last week. I didn't go to, because I don't go to funerals, but I pay my respect in other ways. Some of the people I just know, casual people, and my friends were saying to me, the ones who are not needle crafted were all saying the same thing, that they couldn't believe how badly everyone has aged since 2020. I know one chap here. He's a little bit older than me, not much, and a good-looking guy he was. And I've known him for 20, maybe nearly 20 years, and he looks like my dad now. He looks like he's about 80 or 90. He looks terrible, and it kind of happened only in the last 2 years. And he's a very old-fashioned. He's a nice man now and everything. Nothing wrong with him, but he's a very traditional, Irishman in the sense that he would be very conservative in terms of if the man on TV and the government said you should do this, you should do this. So he would have been, absolutely. He's an intelligent man and everything. There's nothing wrong with him. He's a successful businessman, but like he would be the first to roll up his sleeve, and I was standing in a store the other day, and I felt a slap on the back. He says, as he was walking by, and he says, how's it going, Tom? And he's one of the few people that actually call me Tom. Not many people call me Tom, but he goes, how's it going, Tom? As he's walking by, and I turned around and I see this head of grey hair, and I mean like silvery grey hair. And he turned around and looked at him and says, "Oh my God, I'm not going to mention his name." But I said, "Hey, how's it going?" And he said, "Oh, grand, grand, grand." Doing the thumbs up. He's walking away. I'm in a hurry now, and he looked like my dad. Not like my dad. Like he could have been like old enough to be my dad. He doesn't look like my dad, but he could be old enough to be my old fella. And that's all. And he looked younger than me 3 years ago. It's fucking terrifying. Okay, enjoy the rest of your weekend.